All right. Welcome, everybody, to Ash and Cedar's Gatekept podcast. Today, I'm sitting down with Xavier Johnson. He's the founder of Rise and Run Media. And one thing I'm excited to unpack in this conversation is the difference between visibility and actual pipeline. A lot of founders, operators, and even large companies get the two mixed up. So, Xavier, what's been keeping you busy lately?
Man, just, all the clients, all the projects that we have, I kind of remove myself out of just the day-to-day stuff. So focus on a lot of admin things and a lot of sales and marketing. So that keeps me going. And then it's always cool when you get an email from a client late night that's like, hey, we just got a lead, or hey, can you finish this graphic for us? So that's what keeps me on my toes. And then outside of that, I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old that keeps me really busy, keeping them
Yeah.
engaged. And Shiloh's in Taekwondo and he's starting baseball here in March. So a lot of moving parts, but I'm keeping my nose to the grind and we're making it happen.
That's exciting, man. That's exciting. For people who might not know you yet or know about your company, what can you tell us about it? What does Rise and Run actually do, and what does your day to day life look like?
Yeah, so Roswell Media is a LinkedIn growth agency that partners up with a lot of B2B companies. And essentially, we turn LinkedIn into the number one revenue channel for those B2B founders. We really want to help our clients be able to extract thought leadership out of the founders because there's a lot of knowledge, perspectives, frameworks that they have that they may have not been able to communicate authentically through social media. And that's essentially what we do for our clients. And we do that through the LinkedIn medium, essentially. And it's been very, very powerful. And it's something that I have not seen done in our local market. So I've been afforded the opportunity to tap in, and it's been great for us so far.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And for anybody listening, when he mentions our local market, this is for the Lexington, Kentucky area. But as you guys know, with technology, I'm sure that he could do this in just about any area.
Oh, yeah.
Well, before we kind of get into the marketing side of things, I kind of like to understand your story. As we were talking earlier before we jumped on the call, I'm a big fan of superheroes, specifically Batman and Wolverine. So, kind of, what's your origin story? How do you want to start with this?
Man, so I was an athlete my whole life. That was my end goal. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be an NFL athlete, and I played football and I ran track in high school, and that was kind of my whole route. I went to Kentucky State University on a full ride football scholarship, and I got my bachelor's of business administration with a concentration in marketing. Funny story with that, I actually didn't want to go into business at all for my degree. I was going to go get my law degree, but they told me with doing that study and also trying to handle football would be a lot. So that's not going to work out for you. Maybe do something else that could make sense. Maybe that was the best advice. Maybe it wasn't, but I think it turned out well. And yeah, I was like, hey, I'm gonna get my bachelor's of business administration. They were like, what do you want to concentrate in? And I was like, oh, well, I didn't know you can get a concentration in something. So I looked through all the different categories when it came to a business administration degree, and I saw marketing, and I thought like, wow, well, 80% of business is marketing. I saw a stat of that. So I was like, hey, I'm gonna jump in here because if I am going to get a degree, that I'm going to use my business degree for something in the future. I want to know what actually drives business. And that's what led me into getting my marketing degree. And then right around 2019, so I graduated high school in 2017, went to Kentucky State. Right around 2019 and 2020, that's when COVID happened. And we were kind of in this bubble experience with football. It's a Division II program, so
Mm.
they didn't have all of the resources that some of these bigger Division I programs had regarding practices and schedules and all that kind of stuff. So it was very, very restricted on what we could and what we could not do. And there was a lot of tension on me thinking like, hey, I'm a junior here. Like, I want to continue to pursue the league route, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get another season. And it's time to maybe start to lean into my career a little bit more so. And that's what kind of originally
Mm.
founded the idea of Roger Media on, okay, I may start to like do some freelance work and start to take this work into practice. And right around 2019 was we didn't have no business structure. We didn't have any LLC set up, anything, no branding, anything. It's more so like, hey, I'm a freelancer. I'm just going to take on as many projects that I could get. And I was just cold calling, real estate agents and just figuring out, hey, I can help you do meta ads on Meta and generate you the home buyer, home seller leads. And that actually turned out really great. We had a couple of clients that were doing that with for. And then I realized like, oh my gosh, if I can do this for real estate agents, I can do this for a bunch of people, right? So then I built a case study that I had based on the results that I had. I had video testimonials of clients that I've done that work with. And essentially I started to reach out and start applying to jobs at different agencies, remotely of like, hey, like I would love to be able to come onto your business and just get a good idea of how to make this to become or to grow my career, as a marketer. And then I was getting no good feedback at all. No one was like, "Hey, we'd love to have you on." Everyone told me you don't have enough experience. You need to get more experience before we bring you on for this role. And I was like, "But that's what I went to college for." And they was like, "You need
Yeah.
actual applications." So now I started to realize, like, oh my gosh, I actually need to do the thing instead of just knowing how to talk about the thing, right? And I had this really cool opportunity of one of the agencies back in 2021, I want to say it was, or 2020. And he was like, I don't have a role for you, but you seem like a great guy. You seem like you're motivated. You seem like you want to be able to grow in your career. I'm going to give you an opportunity to come in at my company at the lowest position that we have, which was a technical representative. And this person just essentially just did all things back end of their current client's Meta account. So pixels, installations, identity confirmations, getting access to business pages, login information, making sure everything was set up the way it needs to, add accounts corrected to the right payment methods, like all these things. And when I was doing that, that gave me insights of like all these different businesses and all these different industries. And I was able to look at their ad accounts and I started to realize like, hey, like some of these pixels are mistracking what's going on. And I just had all this feedback that I communicated to the higher ups. And they essentially told me like, hey, well, we love what your insights are. Like, what do you think we should do here and there? Like, we don't, you're obviously on the one on the back end of this stuff. Tell us what we need to do. And I told them, they was like, hey, you seem really knowledgeable in this area. Would you mind setting up some of these campaigns for us to maybe be able to start to run campaigns for our clients? And I was like, absolutely. So they gave me a promotion
Mm.
from technical representative to now a client success manager, where I was actually managing 40 plus different businesses, Meta ad accounts. And long story short, I scaled that, did a phenomenal job, helping a lot of clients grow. That led to me becoming the senior client success manager, thrived in that role. That led me to senior ad specialist for that agency, thrived in that role. Then that led me to be their lead generation specialist. So I was working with the CEO in all five of his different companies that's generating leads for him through Meta. And that turned out great. And then I felt like my growth got stagnant and I was like, there's only so much that I can do. And then that just led me to multiple different roles that I had over my career up until finding Rise Around Media, of me just helping businesses win online through social media. And then in 2024, I had the faith to jump full time into Roswell Media. So I had a lot of freelance clients, I had a lot of tension between my full time job and also the freelance work, that I had to make a decision. And it was right at the same time that my youngest son was born. And I told my wife, like, hey, like, I know this is going to be a tricky season. I know this is going to be hard. This is going to be difficult. It's going to be a sacrifice, but I really think I can make this into something. I've seen so many businesses grow through social media or just do so many different things that I feel like me adding all my experience and knowledge into my own thing, I could really do it. And then that's when I jumped full time with Rosman Media in 2024. And I got my LLC, all the different things set up in that way to be able to do that. And I was like, all right, I got to go after my niche. And I found that, hey, there's a lot of B2B professionals and founders that need to grow. And I was going to do that through LinkedIn. And now we are here. I know
That's
that was
exciting,
a
man.
long story, but yeah, it happened so quickly for me as well. And now I'm here and I'm like, man, we got something grateful to be a part of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So outside of college football, because I'm a big Alabama fan,
There you go.
born and raised Huntsville, Alabama. But outside of football, what was kind of one of the biggest lessons you learned early on at the start of your career?
Oh, man, for me, my faith was really, really important. I had no clarity. I had no sense of like knowledge and understanding of how this life stuff works. And for me, my biggest lesson was, I got to keep my eyes on Jesus' feet when it comes to everything that I do in my life. How do I love my wife? How do I show up in my career and the work that we do? That's helped me be able to open up doors and have conversations and be able to lead with the value that I know is within me. And that has helped me just dramatically change my whole life and perspective on business and how business is done well. And that's what I'll say. So I'll put that all on just developing a relationship with Jesus is one of the things that really helped me.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, when you look at like the Bible and you look at Proverbs, it's kind of like the ultimate guide
Yeah.
on how to business
Yep.
as well as how to life. And
You're
so
right.
I draw from that often as well.
Yep.
Do you remember kind of so you're getting started, you're no longer playing football, you're focusing on your career. Do you remember how the discipline that you learned in sports kind of translated to early career, and what that looked like for maybe students who are already in sports and looking at making that same switch?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my coach, Charlie Jackson, he's actually one of the assistant football coaches at the Air Force Academy right now. He was a very disciplined man in the way that he coached us. I mean, we had a schedule from, early in the morning, lights on to lights out at the end of the day. And for me, I learned so much about being intentional with the time that I had. We all have the same 24 hours a day, and I just needed to be able to figure out exactly what do I want to do in those hours of my day and how intentional can I be. So I pretty much just adopted that same mentality when it came into my career of like, okay, this is what it's going to take to make the business done. These are the tasks that need to get done. These are the projects that need to be fulfilled. These are things that are admin things, onboarding things, delivery things, fulfillment things, and all that good stuff. What needs to happen for all those things to really happen? I just need to be intentional with all of it. So really just time blocking, figuring out ways to organize my schedule where I'm not just hopping on meeting to meeting, to task to task. It's like there's certain days and times that I do certain things. And, if you are a younger professional that's thinking about jumping into, a business and starting your career in that way, it's all about intentionality of like being clear on like, okay, this is the thing that I'm trying to build. This is what I'm trying to do. And these are the steps that it's going to take me to get there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I played in high school. I played soccer, and then I was planning on going to play for college, but I tore my MCL, and I just decided against it. But our soccer coach, my coach's name was Robert Stricker, and that man would make you run laps and laps and laps if you messed up. And so it taught me to try to really think through how I'm doing things the first time and think through the why behind it because I didn't want to run laps. So I kind of adopted the same philosophy in my business. So, every founder has that moment where things kind of shift from learning to building. In your case, it was a little bit of tension between where you were currently working and then some clients that you had on the side. What kind of risks did you have to take? I know you said that you had just had your son. You and your wife were going to have faith in this journey, but what did that risk actually look like?
But it was long days, man. There was days where I was working, 16 plus hours and me skipping out on bedtime to stay like build, Rise Around Media and getting clear on all the things that we're doing. So like a lot of family time was missed out on the early days of me founding this company and just figuring out exactly what it all entails and what it looks like. Also me just being able to feel like I was pulled in so many different directions of like figuring out like the LLC setup, the business structure setup, taxes, like all the different moving parts that I did not think would come as they did. Obviously I went to school for it and I had a knowledge, understanding of the things, but just seeing it actually happen was really, a big thing of like, oh my gosh, I want to make sure I do this right. So it was a lot of tension and just a lot of just like overwhelmingness that was happening, of just trying to be clear, trying to get clients, playing so many different roles, doing sales and marketing, doing fulfillment. Like I was doing a lot of different things and it was just really, really hard and just trying to at the same time show up and be a family man and love my wife well, love my kids well, on top of like the burden of me, like, hey, I'm a provider for my family and I got to make this thing work, regardless of if I think it's going to fail or not. I still have to show up. So even in the days where I felt like I had to get rid of a client or I felt like I was just in over my head and I didn't know what I was doing, I still had to just, you know, put my best foot forward and just commit to like, hey, I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Just keep showing up and just keep showing up until I found the clarity that I really needed.
No, I get it. You're definitely a different man when you have to make this work. Like there's no
Yeah.
other option. It's kind of like that idea of burn the boats, like nobody's coming to save you. You have to figure it out. And then to have the stress of being married and having kids. Can you kind of walk me through what that was like? Because I'm sure that was pretty difficult for you.
Yeah, it was extremely difficult, and for me, the best thing that I figured out in this process was communication was very important. I had to communicate to my wife what was going on, what my day to days was looking like, what I'll be spending time on, because I didn't want her to think like I'm just up in my office and just like fooling around. Like I want her to know, like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I'll be making phone calls here and there. I'm going to go to these meetings. I wanted her to know what meetings I was going on so she could see the potential of the growth that we're doing. I didn't want her to be outside looking in of like, hey, are you getting paid or you're not getting paid? But I want her to see like there's potential here. There's opportunities I have. These proposals I sent, these deals I've sent out. So really communicating with her and inviting her into the business. Like even to this day, my wife actually helped me close my biggest deal that I ever closed in business because I invite her
Mm.
discernment, I invite her wisdom into my business. She knows everything that I'm doing, what clients I currently have. She could pitch my business better than probably I could. And that's because I just been really really open with her so that she can feel like she's also in the vision, in the dream that I felt like God's given me and helped me be able to push it forward. So I would say, communication was a big, big factor in how to navigate um, all of that.
No, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And, too, being a couple and being married, it's kind of like you're building this business together, because it's going to be a part of both of your lives. That's awesome. Did you ever question your decision to jump? Were you ever like, I'm over this, I'm done, I'm going to go find work somewhere else? What was that kind of like?
Yeah, so I never questioned it, but there was opportunities where I felt slow in business and I was like, do I need to just go get a job? Like, do I need to just go like do something to make some supplement income, on the side as I'm still figuring this thing out? But questioning, no, I felt very deep in my soul and mind of like, no, I'm meant and created to be a leader and be a professional in whatever I am desiring to do. And I think this is the thing that God wants me to do because I've helped multiple businesses scale. I've done a lot of things when it comes to marketing, and I was like, I know this is what I can do. I just got to figure out the messaging and the clarity that I needed. So I stayed in a positive frame of mind of like, I know I need to do this, but in those slow months early on, it was very tricky of like, man, I could just go get a six-figure salary or somewhere else and have to worry about all these different things I gotta worry about as a business owner. And that was the tension that I had, but I just chose to like, Imma bet on myself because I know with that role will come other things down the road that I maybe not wanna have to navigate. So I just stay committed to the
Yeah.
dream.
No, that's inspiring, man. I've had many times where I wanted to throw the towel in and then just burn the entire business to the ground. So, that perspective is fresh to hear. So, kind of going from working for other people to doing your own thing to having the conviction that it's going to work, the idea that there's no other options. What was harder about doing that than you originally expected? Like, what's been the most difficult thing about entrepreneurship for you?
Oh man, I mean, one of the things was realizing like the work ethic that I needed to have to really make this be a thing. The discomfort that I needed to lean into. There's a saying that I say now, like I got to get comfortable being uncomfortable because being an entrepreneur, I got to put myself out there. I got to take podcast opportunities like this to share my voice and share my tone and share the things that I talk about as a business professional, regardless if I feel like I want to do it or not. It's important for me to do that because that's what's going to lead into more business for me when people see me doing these things, see me get, just uncomfortable to share that and show that I'm confident in the thing that I'm building. So for me, that comfortability of like trying to navigate that and being uncomfortable but still showing up was like I had to work that muscle of knowing like, hey, regardless of how I'm feeling, if I'm tired, if my baby's not sleeping throughout the night or we're navigating all these different things, I still got to be able to shift into my professional gear and know how to show up with 100% in me to do this thing. Excuse me, that was always tricky, but I felt like I found myself in a good rhythm to be able to do that and navigate, discomfort.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with how far you've grown, which we haven't really got to that point yet, but with
Yeah.
how much you've grown, it's evident that's been part of your mantra.
Appreciate it, man. I'm trying.
Yeah, one day at a time, man. One day at a
Right.
time. So I got to listen to one of your previous podcasts. If nobody's had the opportunity to listen to it yet, Xavier was on Aram Street's Coffee Chaos Cash Flow. I think I said that the right way. Anyhow, during that podcast, he talked about visibility. So your LinkedIn visibility, and that could look like viewers versus kind of the pipeline that it creates, and how visibility doesn't always mean pipelining. And visibility often is the idea of vanity metrics. So, can you kind of walk us through how visibility alone doesn't create pipeline and jump into that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, over the years, something that I've seen through traditional agencies I work for was, promoting and selling vanity metrics is, visibility, like, oh, reach, impressions, likes, shares, comments. And I realized like those things can be good on the strategy side of things of knowing like, okay, is this content resonating? But when it comes to like actual business outcomes, I don't think those play a huge role. What I mean by that is because you may see some people, even if I've seen in my own space as advertising marketers, there may be a lot of likes, there may be a lot of shares, there may be a lot of comments, and they may be really connected, but they're not driving business. And I know as a business professional myself and a lot of the B2B founders that I work with, the number one thing they really care about is pipeline of revenue because that's what's actually going to move their business forward. So when it comes to the vanity metrics and actually getting pipeline, there's a discrepancy that is just in the area, right? So for me, it's more so finding the idea of like how can we drive more pipeline and more revenue instead of just promoting and selling, this visibility and these vanity metrics. And we found that through a methodology that we have created, which is awareness, traffic, leads, and sales, which is a process that we clearly lay out for our clients to be able to help them get awareness, get traffic, get leads, and get sales that actually lead to pipeline and revenue for their business. And LinkedIn's been a huge role in the process of how we do that. And because it's one of the platforms that their whole slogan and tagline is the place to be to be. And it's been very, very, very powerful for ourselves as Rise on Media. Like we're practitioners. We do what we do for our clients as well. And it's something that we just continue to want to duplicate for our clients to show them like, hey, this is how streamlined and simple this process can be for you. And, we ask our clients to dedicate an hour, 2 hours a month to what we're doing. And from there, they see leads, they see opportunities, they see pipeline, come from the efforts that we're putting in. So I say that to say this is the most important thing a B2B founder, B2B professional cares about. And I don't want them to feel like they're not going to get that. So we communicate in our messaging very clearly, we're going to turn LinkedIn to a number one revenue channel for your business. That's what the value that they're looking for outside of all the different marketing mechanisms that you can do. This is the thing that's really going to drive it forward. So that's why we lean into that.
No, that makes sense. With kind of that hierarchy that you presented, how does the attention actually turn into revenue?
Yeah, so a lot of the things that we do is first is obviously we're creating a lot of foundational assets through content, video content, graphics, carousels, and all that good stuff on your platform. And we have access to tools on our end where we can see people that are actually viewing your accounts and seeing on the back end of like, oh, they checked your account now and all that kind of stuff like that. We can see that. We can see, what location they're in, what company, job titles. We can see all that good stuff. And from there, once we see someone's engaged and they're watching and they're viewing and looking at your content, even if they're not liking it, we always reach out through a LinkedIn connection request that leads and bridges a gap to a conversation. You and I both know we both get pitched a lot on LinkedIn. We get a lot of random messages of people telling them they can sell us, the biggest thing in the world. And no one responds to that. But there's something to the human like touch when you are already searching for a solution to your problem and that person that has that solution strategically reaches out to you, you're like, oh my gosh, like I actually was just thinking about this. I saw this dude's content talking about this specific pain point that I have. Of course I'll be open to having a conversation or connecting with you via LinkedIn DMs that can lead to an in-person conversation. So that's essentially the approach that we take. Anybody that engages with the content, views the ads that we're promoting for our clients or clicking on the ads, et cetera. We bridge that to then conversations through the DMs that then leads to actual opportunities in person for our clients to meet, sit down with them. And if even all the deals don't close, they still can see a pipeline of like, these are opportunities that we can be able to pursue later on until that person is ready to move forward. And then on the other end of it, you get opportunities like podcast invites. You get opportunities to collaborate, partnerships, and all that good stuff. Like all that comes from LinkedIn. And if you're not getting your voice and your tone out there in a way that's authentic and trying to turn those conversations into trust, you kind of put yourself in a tricky situation. So that's what we want to do for our clients. Like we want the end user to have conversations in their mind through the content that we're promoting, but then we want that conversation to lead to a DM because we know conversations build trust. Trust turns into revenue for your business.
No, that's good stuff. How does that kind of differentiate from like, so you have like your organic model, and then you were talking about running ads. What is the difference between the organic model and running the ads, and
Yeah.
what's that process?
Yeah, so organic, it's more so, I would say that's more so like outbound efforts of what we're doing, they're viewing your content, we're reaching out through a strategic DM. On the ad side of thing, we're actually warming these people up and nurturing them. So we create three different campaign groups for all our clients. That's top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of the funnel. Top of the funnel are cold ads. These are people that don't know who you are. They never heard of you at all, but they fit your ideal client profile. Once they view the ads, click on the ads, or view a certain amount of percentage of the videos, or they visit your company page, we then retarget them with middle of the funnel ads, which is then just nurtures them down. So now they're aware of you. They know they've engaged with your content. They've seen your stuff on LinkedIn, etc. Now they're in the middle funnel, that which is you're going a little bit more deeper in your value proposition and what you're doing. And then we retarget them again with the bottom of funnel. Once they watch a certain percentage of videos, or they visit your company page, or they visit certain pages on your website, and we see that stuff, we then target them at the top, the bottom of the funnel, of with like very direct to call to action ads that's going to call them out to book a demo, to learn more, to visit the website, to download this PDF or download this lead magnet, or whatever the case may be, that then leads to qualified leads for your business. That's a little bit more targeted on the paid media side.
How have you seen that work better than maybe some other people? Because like Facebook, you can't really do that with Facebook, can you?
Yeah, so you can. It just looks different. So LinkedIn's platform can be very expensive if you do not have a healthy amount of traffic already going to your website. The reason why I say that is because if you don't have a really good product market fit, it could be really expensive platform on the ad side of things, because you're going to have to invest these dollars to be able to build up these audience sizes so that you can retarget them. But for like a lot of clients that we work with, they already have product market fit, they already have a healthy website traffic, so it's able for us to be able to really help them adopt LinkedIn ads into their system to generate these leads that they're looking for. You was asking me, have we seen not better results, but have we seen like the I'm sorry, can you rephrase that again for me?
Yeah. So, kind of the idea behind with your top, your middle, and your bottom tier, how is that different than other platforms?
Oh, sweet. Awesome. Yeah. So with Meta specifically, you can do a top, middle, and bottom funnel, but there doesn't necessarily need to be a lot of targeting when it comes to Meta. Meta's leaning more so on the creative, right? So the creative can essentially tell who you're trying to reach for, and their AI algorithm can get those ads in front of those people, right? With LinkedIn, you do need to be a little bit more targeted, because you can waste a lot of dollars on code ads from people that they just keep looking at your brand, they keep looking at your website, but you're not really being nurtured at all. So with LinkedIn, you kind of got to nurture them, because B2B buyers buy differently than anybody else in the other direct to consumer brands, or, all the other, they just buy differently, right? So you got to nurture these people. You got to build this trust. You got to be a little bit more intentional with the creative assets that you're putting out. That's going to help you bridge that trust. So LinkedIn, it's a little bit more strategic behind how you approach it, but when done right, you can get a lot of benefit from it.
You were saying that buyers purchase things differently than consumers. In your experience, has that been pretty accurate? So, like if a company came in and you were going to do an audit for them and you looked at all their different channels of marketing, is LinkedIn typically the most profitable once they're up and running?
Yeah, so currently with a lot of our clients that came to us, they actually have not utilized LinkedIn that much. They knew of it, they just didn't know anybody that could do it for them, right? So that's why I kind of came into this industry very, very timely, because a lot of these people left traditional agencies to be like, hey, I've seen your work on LinkedIn and I think you do a phenomenal job. How does this look like for us, essentially? So to me, talking to a B2B professional or a B2B brand, yes, you definitely need to be on LinkedIn, because people don't scroll on LinkedIn like they do on Facebook and Instagram. Sometimes me and my wife at the end of a long day, we scroll on Instagram and Facebook, and we're both laughing through videos that we see. We're getting on Instagram and Facebook to laugh through videos, right? People don't get on LinkedIn to laugh. People get on LinkedIn to be educated, to be able to know who can solve the problem that they're struggling with, who are industry leaders that they're connected with, what are the other connect people and their colleagues sharing about their businesses and et cetera. So when you show up authentically on the platform, it literally allows you to be able to communicate to the people that are buying, that can lead to building that trust that needs to be established in B2B marketing, or just in the B2B transactions of business. There needs to be trust there. And it happens more on LinkedIn than it does compared to some of these other platforms.
Gotcha. No, that's incredible. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, man.
Well, let's kind of shift for a minute from marketing to the founder journey. Here's a question that I like to ask people a lot. What belief about yourself did you have to give up or change when you became a founder?
Oh, wow. That's a great question. One thing that resonates with me was like, I don't have to be perfect. Growing up, my mom and dad were blue collar workers and they worked hard, 40, 50 hours a week. And they showed up. And not that they were perfect, but it gave me this sense of like, you have to be perfect in the things that you're doing. They were great parents to us. And to me, it felt like, oh my gosh, they're perfect people. I'll never get to that point. And I'm now came to the realization as a founder, like, I'm not going to be perfect, but I can be intentional. I can show up with authenticity. I could be real with the way that I communicate. And that has been the biggest lesson I learned of like, you don't have to be perfect. Just show up, be intentional in the way that you do business. And that will carry you longer than just trying to be perfect because being perfect will lead you astray every single time.
No, that's deep, man. What did that realization kind of teach you? Like if we were to expound upon that,
Yeah.
is that still practical in your everyday life? Do you still act the same way, or has that belief kind of matured?
Yeah, so it's definitely matured a lot. I actually have a mentor that, that's something I struggle with throughout my whole livelihood. So it definitely has matured and me just realizing my actual value, not just in business, but just as a man, and a man of God of like, there's value that I add to the rooms that I go into. So me being who I am is good enough. Now, that doesn't mean I need to be complacent. Always grow, always shift, always navigate, always be adaptable, but don't put this high standard on yourself so high that's impossible for you to reach. And that's something that my mentor has consistently told me when I have these days of like, man, I feel like I'm just, dropping the ball. I feel like I'm failing. Or he's like, man, you're just giving yourself really hard time. Like, dude, you're 26 years old, you have a 6-year company, you have a wife, you have 2 kids, we expect them one in September. Like, you're living the dream. Don't be so hard on yourself about the ways that, all the different things that you're navigating in your life. Like, be grateful for what you have, be thankful what you have, and just continue to show up with intentionality. So that's helped me mature my perspective around that. And when I tell you the breath of fresh air that I can breathe now for myself, but also for my family, my wife seeing me being able to breathe, because I remember the early days when I felt very tight and just very stressed out over, she can see me breathe. She can see me be confident to walk in these rooms that I've been able to be a part of. And it's a very life giving feeling to see on the other end of like, man, when, I'm intentional and I allow myself to be who I am, um, it's the best feeling in the world.
No, I've definitely found myself in that situation a lot of times. I always like to think about don't let anyone look down on you because you were young, that Bible verse. But then on the
Yep.
flip side of it, I'm my own biggest critic. I'm not doing stuff fast enough, or I'm not doing it to the level that I put in my mind. And then I get disappointed. And so for me, too, kind of like what you said, it's you have to give yourself grace. You're going to be your own worst critic. I'm going to be my own worst critic, and then just trying to figure out how to operate in lieu of that.
I totally agree, man. Man, I do not need to strive for this level of perfection. I'm good where we're at.
What's been one of your favorite quotes? What's something that you live by daily?
Oh man, like I said earlier on, get comfortable being uncomfortable. That can apply to a lot of different things, not just as a business professional, but just in your day to day life of being a husband, being a father, and being a friend, being a son. Like, just get comfortable being uncomfortable. There's a lot of things that as we're growing and we're navigating different seasons of our life that, you just got to be able to be comfortable in just the discomfort that the life's going to afford you, and that's been
Mhm.
allow me to be able to have a tiny shift in perspective when things come up and things fall into my lap that I'm like, hey, as a man, I call myself to a standard of like being okay to be uncomfortable and have the hard conversations and do the things that may not be the ideal, but leaning into that discomfort because usually on the other end of that discomfort is actually the thing that you're looking for. So if you can lean into it and just get comfortable being uncomfortable, there's nothing that can stop you.
No, that's good stuff. With kind of that idea of being uncomfortable, how was it starting a brand new business? You're married, you're becoming a father for the first time. It's obviously your first time at life too.
Yeah.
What did that look like? And how did being a father kind of change your appetite?
My goodness, man, it makes me emotional at times. I'm very grateful to be a father, and I'm very grateful to my wife to allow me to grow into that role. And, my boys watch every movement that I make. They watch how I talk to their mom. They watch how I talk to them. They watch how I hold myself accountable in my daily devotions, me going to the gym. Like they're watching every movement that I'm doing. And I think in some cases that could be a lot of pressure, but I've adopted a mentality of that it's an honor to be in this role. It's an
Mhm.
honor to be able to have, a family to serve every day and every night. I pour everything that I have into that to my boys and to my wife. I die empty essentially is what, I'm called to do in my faith. And it's just an honor to be able to do that at the level that I'm doing it at the season of life that I'm in. And I feel grateful and charged and energetic every day that I wake up to be able to like, hey, this is another opportunity to put my family in front of me and help them live the best life that they want to live and continue to hold myself to the standard of like, this is what's important to me. It's them. It's them being able to look up to dad and my wife to be able to feel confident when she goes out in public spaces to know like my husband's doing great work in the community. I can speak highly of him. And that's a like a deep thing that's constantly going on in my mind and my heart. And then to add to that, I grew up looking up at NFL stars. I grew up looking up to all these people. And I didn't think that was bad. I thought that was fine. I want my boys to look up to me. I want my boys to see my dad and like, man, I want to be like my dad when I grow up. Not just being a business professional, but just the values that I stand by on a daily basis. I want them to adopt those values, those beliefs, those morals. And in order to do that, I got to show them with my actions and even show them that with my words at times as well, so that they can clearly see like this is what's more important than all the other things that the world can give us. It's being a man that can stand strong on his 2 feet, love his wife well, love his community, love his friends, his brothers, his sisters, and just be a light to them in all the ways that he can, and also be a light for himself in moments that it's not the best for himself as well. So for me, it's man, that's my biggest calling. That's my biggest honor. And I know you have kids as well. So man, you feel this deeply too. It's something that it's bigger than anything else that we ever do in our life. And that's at the forefront of my mind at all times of how can I continue to be the best version. And they help me. If it wasn't for them, I would not be the business professional that I am because they motivate me to show up when I don't want to. So yeah, I know it's kind of long winded, man. I got on tangent, but that's the passion,
No,
dude.
no,
I,
you're
I I
good.
love
You're good.
I love my wife and my boys, man. It's a blessing for sure.
Well, it's evident. It's evident. One of my favorite quotes is kind of the idea behind what a blessing it is to be tired from the things you once prayed for.
That is
And
so true.
in my life, whether it's business or it's kids running around or marriage or even having a home and just all the things that come with it, what a blessing. So for you too, man, what a blessing it is to get to step into that role and lead the
Yep.
example for some amazing humans that are going to get to grow up and have an impact on the world themselves.
Absolutely. I totally agree. I love that. I'm gonna adopt that saying, man. It's a blessing to be overwhelmed by the things that you once prayed for.
Yes. Yes.
There you
I think about that quote daily. Sometimes it makes me happy. Sometimes it makes me mad, but
go. Yeah,
it's one
there you
of them.
go.
It depends.
Honesty is
Oh,
good, man.
yeah. Well, I think we're getting kind of towards the end. So, what I'd like to do is I would like to ask you what is in 2 minutes or less. Nobody knows anything about you. Nobody has any context about what we talked about this entire podcast. What is your message to the world?
My message to the world is to lean on God in everything that you're doing. There's a lot of clarity in the work that you are called to do. And through the lens of Jesus, there's a lot of things that can help bring life into your seasons of life as a professional, as an employee, but as a brother, as a sister, as a mom, as a dad, as an uncle, as a cousin, who we are and who we're called to be. There's a lot that goes into that. And I think, through our faith, we can bridge that gap and actually live this life to the fullness of what that can look like. So, if anything that I want to leave to anybody is definitely to lean into that relationship, even if it's been hard, even if it's been tricky, even if it's been unclear on what it looks like. Jesus wants to be a friend of yours. He wants to help you get to the goal and desire where you all's desires are actually aligned. So keep striving for that relationship and, you can come back to this podcast and call my bluff.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Well, Xavier, it's been a great having you. For anybody who's interested in finding out more about him, he does own Rise and Run Media. In our bio, we will put the link to his website and also his LinkedIn. Connect with him, Xavier Johnson on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for being with us, and I hope you have a blessed day.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it so much. Looking forward to the release of this episode, and I'll see you around.
See you around.